Good morning, everyone. This is Aunt Beth. I know I just uploaded a video on money and wisdom for the days ahead. But as I was uploading it, God dropped something into my heart as far as biblical wisdom on prepping for the days ahead. And talking about the ant, Joseph, and Noah. So, I'm going to relay to you what I believe the Lord dropped into my heart, and you can use that as a thought for the days forward. The ant. She gathers her supplies in summer and harvests in the fall. So that is two gatherings of two different types of things. Okay? Supplies and food. All right? And we all know the ant is considered very wise. She also is very busy, and she doesn't spend her time yakking with everybody else about what she's doing. She's just doing it. Okay? So, supplies, food, busy, and focused are the things that I think we need to learn from the ant. When we think about Noah, and this comes from Genesis 6 through 8, he built an ark under God's direction. Okay, he was just minding his own business, and God tapped him on the shoulder and said, "This is what I want you to do, so you can make it through the days ahead." And do you realize when you read that through that he was actually, so he spent 100 years, maybe it was 120, building this ark for something that he had never seen before, rain, because the Bible's very clear that it had never rained before. The earth was watered by fog. Never seen this before. God tells him to prepare. So he does. He also warns people. Okay, they didn't listen. But he's spent that whole time preaching, it says, and building the ark with his family. It's very interesting. It almost appears as if God brought the animals to him. But anyway, the Bible says that God shut him into the ark about a week before. So God shut him in. Nobody's getting out. Nobody's running to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee, okay? They're withdrawn into their shelter, okay? Sometimes we think that he went in and it was starting to rain and, he goes in. But no, he was in for 7 days before it started to rain. And I'm sure they're all sitting around inside thinking, what in the world have we gotten ourselves into? We think about the fact that it rained for 40 days, but we don't think about the fact that the Bible's very clear that he was in that boat for a year and 10 days. A year and 10 days, sitting on a floating manure pile. Okay, it wasn't just 40 days. All right, so it's something to think about when we are preparing, is that people may not listen to us. The proverb says, if you're wise for yourself. So don't freak out. Just keep preparing and doing what God has told you to do. Okay? What God has told you to do. Just keep preparing. There will come a season when maybe God pulls you aside and says, okay, it's done. It's time to go into seclusion. And I'm sure it broke his heart to hear people from the village just running up and beating on the doors. He couldn't open those doors. God had closed them in. So God is going to choose, to some extent, your community for you. All right, he will bring the things that you need to you, okay? There will be a time of seclusion where it looks like nothing's happening and you think you're an absolute idiot, but that's okay. And it could be a lot longer than you think, as far as being in a secret place, okay? It could be a lot longer. And I'm sure it was very hard emotionally. So, 120 years to prepare, a year of floating on the water. They'd never seen rain before. And when it comes out, it's a new world and new rules. And that's when God established seed time and harvest. And that's when there was rainy seasons and not rainy seasons. It had never rained before. So if we get through tough times that are coming, when we emerge, don't expect it to be by the old rules. It's not. The third part about prepping from Joseph, and this is in Genesis chapter 41. Okay. Joseph was the person that Pharaoh had interpreted the dream that there was a 7-year famine coming after 7 years of prosperity. And Joseph gave Pharaoh wisdom to prepare. But one of the things we tend to forget is that Joseph had been in jail. So I'm sure he didn't smell real nice. He wasn't in jail as a person in charge. He was in jail under false accusations. So, okay. So he's in jail. He gets the word. He's involved with people. He didn't get an attitude. He's involved with people trying to help them while he's in jail. And when he's called to see Pharaoh, he, again, doesn't have an attitude, but out of respect for Pharaoh, he takes the time to clean up. Okay? The Bible's very clear that he stopped and cleaned up before he went to see Pharaoh. He didn't come in like some wild child, all deranged. Hearing what God had to say was far more important, and he recognized the reality of the situation. But he also respected Pharaoh. So he's very bold. He credits God with the insight. But this is really critical. He sets aside 20% of all Egypt's income. 20%. Okay, he doesn't go crazy, 50, 70, 90%. But he sets aside 20% in stores. But here's the critical part, is when the famine starts and people are done using their own resources, he doesn't just give it to them, he sells it. He sells it. And I think some very naive and innocent people will say, oh, he should just give it to people. No, he sells it. And as a result, Pharaoh ends up incredibly wealthy with gold, land, ends up selling, in those days they had slavery, so he ends up with slaves. But I think the point is, don't give away your preps, you sell them, okay? But you wait till people have gone through their own resources. Again, Proverbs says, if you're wise for yourself. All right? So if you hear God, you start putting things away. All right? And when this is in the middle of all the craziness, don't be giving away your stuff. Absolutely sell it, but don't be giving away your stuff. Okay? So I hope this encourages you. And I will talk to you, I guess, next week, Tuesday. So have a fabulous day. All God's best.